What's good, YouTube? Just a casual nerd here, back again with another video. And today I want to give my first impressions of the She-Hulk series. The first episode just dropped today, so I want to give my first impressions. I was just going to wait to do a review after the whole series, but I changed my mind and decided to give at least my thoughts on it since it just dropped. And I know it's been kind of pretty divisive even before it dropped for different various reasons. So that's why I want to just go ahead and put this first one out. The next time I talk about it, it'll probably be after the series is over. Well, I say that now, that might be capped, but we'll see. But with no further ado, here's what I think about it. First, I'll go over like the good things, and then after that, I'll go over the things I didn't like or the bad things about it. I know some people just put out on IMDb that it was getting review bombed. You know, people were saying, oh, they're putting ones out of tens on it, but ironically enough, it was also getting 10s out of 10s as well before it even dropped. So it was kind of getting quote unquote review bomb from both sides before it even came out. Honestly, I think IMDb should lock reviews to after the series actually drops. In my opinion, it definitely wasn't a 10 out of 10, but it wasn't a 1 out of 10 either. I guess it falls somewhere in the middle, but let me just get right into it. And this goes without saying, but there definitely will be spoilers. Honestly, anything you watch in my videos is probably going to be some spoilers involved, so FYI. But first, I think the tone of the show could actually work. I do like the lighter tone that it's taking. Now, some of the execution of it is not done great, but the tone itself is okay. Like I said, some of the execution, some of the dialogue is a little wanky, but as far as the actual, lighter tone in and of itself, I don't need this to be, dark and brooding in this one. Of course, I think MCU needs a little bit more of that seriousness and, a little bit more of that darkness. But for this show in particular, I think it's okay. I know some people probably compare like the lightness to Miss Marvel. Now, Miss Marvel, I couldn't get past 2 episodes of it. I just couldn't, at least with this one. Maybe it's just the character, but I think I may actually be able to finish this one even despite it having a lighter tone. Now, it just depends on how they execute said tone, which I'll kind of get into the drawbacks of the show that kind of really brought it down a little bit later. But yeah, I think the tone in itself is not problematic as long as it's executed well. Now, with that being said, I'm still a little scared for Daredevil because, his, tone coming from the Netflix series then coming into this is starkly different. Now, it did work in No Way Home, but his character wasn't really changed. It still worked in the little bit of scene that he did have, but I don't want like Daredevil himself to be a whole overhaul. I still want to recognize the character, so I'm still a little bit scared for him. I do like the lighter tone. That the lighter tone is working so far. Maybe not necessarily for the Hulk himself, because we already know that OG Hulk is basically being butchered at this point, but that may change in the future. But for She-Hulk, her character, it's okay for her. And speaking of which, I do like the actress in the role. I think her name is Tatiana Maslany. I believe that's how you say it. I mean, I do like her character. I think she can really act well. She shows some versatility. Like I said, some of the dialogue was a little not great, but I don't put that on the actress. It's not one of those situations where I don't think that the actress fits the role. Now, I know there's debate whether they should have did CGI or just hired a tall, muscular, actress to be the She-Hulk. I'm still a little split on it because CGI looked good in some scenes, and other scenes CGI looked kind of wonky. And I'm sure with TV budget, for some reason, Disney probably just didn't put all the money they could and to do some scenes that probably should have been She-Hulk. They had her basically change back to her normal form, probably due to budget, like again, for some reason. But, I don't have anything against the actress in this role. I don't think that she, doesn't fit or anything. So, nothing against the actress, herself. Anytime I give a critique on anything, it's usually nothing against the actors or actresses unless they just, just fumbling the bag, outside of the actual role or something like that. They still got Mark Ruffalo as the Hulk. Now, me personally, I really haven't been a fan of Mark Ruffalo's Hulk for a couple years now. And then with this Professor Hulk, or I guess now they call him Smart Hulk, is basically kind of just Mark Ruffalo in green CGI. But again, I'm trying not to use this video to bash OG Hulk. I guess I can do that in a whole nother video. I'll try my best to focus on She-Hulk, but it's he's just like kind of a glaring problem in the MCU. But again, I've digressed. But yeah, I believe the actress did, the best she could with this particular script. I have nothing against the, actress or anything, and I've heard this is my first time seeing her or anything, but I've heard she's done well in other shows or movies or whatever she's been in. So yeah, no problem with her. Now I know this is supposed to be like a comedy series. I'll be honest with you, I really didn't laugh at anything in there, but I will give them this: the end credit scene. I thought the execution of that one was actually kind of funny. It did get like a little bit of laugh out of me, due to how they cut it and everything. I thought that was actually a little bit comedic. Now the rest of it, I really didn't find anything too funny in it, but MCU's brand of comedy these past couple years has been kind of awful to me in the first place. So to kind of carrying on with that. But I guess they didn't really have too many jokes in there, or at least I'm assuming they weren't trying to be too jokey in this one, maybe, or maybe it just kind of just flew under my radar. Not like I said, not too much that was comedic in here for me, or that I found funny at least, except that end credit scene. Like I said, I actually thought that part was kind of funny. Now the part when they did it in the car, not so much, but how they executed it in the end credit scene, I was like, okay, that was kind of funny. All right, now I'm gonna get into some of the drawbacks of the show, some things that I didn't like, as well as some things that I just thought were awful. I would say there weren't too many things I thought were awful. I'll be honest, but there were some things I was like, all right, you kind of get into cringe territory a little bit. One, I think the pacing was kind of off. I won't say the pacing was bad, because I understood what type of pacing they was going for, but it was just a little bit off-putting. I can't quite put my finger on it or put it into words yet, but some of the pacing kind of took me out of it a little bit, like the way they cut from one scene to the next. It was a little weird. I think that needs to be, hopefully that's a little better in future episodes. And I think it's because too, since they're kind of going this sitcom route, a lot of sitcoms, what they usually have like two major storylines going on, where it's a little bit easier to flip from one to the other, and then it kind of combines at the end. With this one, since it was just mainly one story with just these two characters, with still that same type of cutting and editing, that may be why it was a little weird. But I don't know, tell me what you think about that in the comments. It could just be me, but it was a little bit off for me personally. Now I know one big thing that people worry about it being a female-centric character, and as well as the directors and actors kind of coming out talking about how it was basically almost made for more sort of a female or the woman audience. And yeah, they were very heavy on the modern feminism stuff. Like when I say that isn't heavy on it, I mean as they didn't like. It was more so they're kind of telling you what they want you to think, or telling you how she feels, rather than showing you. So they didn't really do anything that was trying to subvert any expectations of what we were supposed to think or feel about certain situations. It was basically men are bad, men are condescending, or men are basically trash. And that was basically the every man had, like, every man in the show basically had some type of bad quality about them, whether there was harassing, where they were condescending, or just not being empathetic whatsoever, which I kind of expected. That it was just very heavy-handed in the first episode. I thought it was just gonna be kind of sprinkled all the way through, but it was very heavy-handed in each scene where a man was involved. And I think that's a problem in a lot of the modern shows today. Anytime they try to tackle any type of feminism topic, is that it's just divulged into all men are trash without actually saying anything helpful. And that inherently just divides your audience, because you're telling half, if not most of your audience, that they're trash. So I think that's something they need to work on to better write topics like that. But that's something we kind of knew going into, but it's something it's a drawback personally for me. Now some people may like it, I personally don't, but if you do, hey, drop a comment below. All right. And the next thing I wanted to talk about was the fighting. There was about two fighting scenes maybe in here. The first one with her and the Hulk, it wasn't great. It just, choreography wasn't great, but at the same time, I'll try to give them a little bit of leeway, because I know that She-Hulk, she's a lawyer, and then Professor Hulk, or Smart Hulk now, I guess he's a professor, so they're really not good at fighting in per se anyway. But at choreography, it was, I mean, it was okay. I wasn't expecting it, to be honest with you, so that was a cool surprise. But I mean, it was okay, I guess. Now the last fight, the little fight that they had with Titania at the end. Now that one was actually pretty god awful. The cuts, the way it was spliced together, it was just really bad. Now I know it's a quote unquote attorney at law show or comedy show, so the focus is not on the fighting, so I didn't expect much from it. But that last fight, it was just really bad. Probably one of the worst in the MCU. I don't know why that was kind of shot that way. Or they just didn't bring in someone who was, good at that part. I get it was like the last scene of the episode, but it was just really didn't go over well. I'm sure it'll be more later on, but that one in particular, I think that probably should have stayed on the cutting room floor, in my opinion. And next, I want to go over something that a lot of people worry about, is whether She-Hulk would basically be quote unquote better than the Hulk. And I mean, yeah, she basically is in most parts. I don't know about for the strength level, because obviously the Hulk wasn't going full strength doing the training thing. But for his her like there was a big emphasis on that she was just already better than a lot of things that Hulk had going through, which is okay in the sense that her character is different. Her character has a different path, which I'm not as familiar with everything that happened in the comics, because I'm just a casual. So if you got some comic explanations, go ahead and drop it below. But yeah, as soon as she got her powers, I mean, she was already for the most part after day one better at everything, essentially. More so in actually controlling the Hulk, and that's okay. But I think it would have been cool to at least see her struggle for maybe an episode at least. She was basically right out the gate, kind of good at everything dealing with the Hulk, or she was over the emotional part about turning into a Hulk. She was basically over it after like a couple days, it seemed like, and she was like good to go, ready to go back to normal life, which I think was cool that she was able to control it and everything. But for like the training parts and stuff like that, it seemed like she got it after after like 2 seconds, basically, essentially. And I think there's one thing the MCU is going to have to tackle, especially in Phase 4. Now, this isn't just a female hero centric issue. I think anytime a new character is taking a mantle, this happens in a lot of superhero-esque either shows or movies, is that they're already better at controlling and doing everything than the original character. Now, no, I do believe like She-Hulk and characters like her should progress a little faster, because you already have someone that's been through it. So I don't think she needs like a 15-year character arc. And I'm actually okay with her being able to have her consciousness in it. Like I said, I don't know all the comic stuff around it, so I'm actually okay with that. It didn't really take away from anything for me personally. It was just that the emotional humps and the physical stuff, she got over, it seemed like, in a day. Now, this is another thing that goes back to the pacing part. I really don't know exactly how much time she actually stayed there. I know they did like the couple months ago thing like that, but really don't know exactly how long she was actually there, because the way it was paced, it seemed like she was only there for like 3 days or something like that. And she seemed like she got over that quickly. Now, I could be totally wrong with that, but the way it was paced, the way it was shown to us, kind of gave off that. Now, it goes back to me saying that you really when you're doing a new character who's taking on this new role or new ability of OG characters that we've kind of known and loved, we still need to at least see them still struggle, or have some type of struggle. Now, obviously, if her struggles are different, that's perfectly fine. But going from a day-to-day lawyer to this being literally a Hulk, you still want to actually see them struggle with certain aspects of it. Now, again, they should progress quicker than like the OG Hulk, because they already have someone who's mentoring them and who's already been through it, so they should definitely progress a lot quicker. But the speed that they're doing this, I mean, it's 9 episodes, so I feel like you got a little bit of time to develop it a little bit more. She kind of just went right past the physical and emotional stuff, said, all right, I got it, and I'm going back to my regular life. Now, a better way to have done that, in my opinion, would have been to, as soon as she realized she could be conscious as the Hulk and at least sort of control it, I feel like she should have just like left the Hulk at that point in time, and then did her lawyer thing and basically kept it under control for the most part, and maybe then had a fight and lost, and then she would have to go back to the Hulk and realize that, hey, maybe I need a little bit of help of figuring this thing out. And she could still be decent, she could still get it like fairly quicker, but at least show her that there's more to it now. And everything's not necessarily the same as it was before. So that way we're giving her a little bit of arc. And then you could have her, more towards the end. She's accepted everything. She's, a big time, She-Hulk lawyer. But obviously, I don't know what's the trajectory of the shows. I don't know how it's going to end. So I'm just kind of just floating some things out there. But at the first episode, that's what I feel like they should have done. And she may have gotten may have ended with Titania actually, beating her, because she beat Titania like pretty easily. Like it was like in 5 seconds. So I think that would have gave her a little hump to get over, or a challenge to complete. Because right now I'm not really sure what at all she has to work on. As a character or as the Hulk itself. It seems like she doesn't have anything to progress towards at this point, or maybe they just haven't showed it. But as of right now, with that being said, I'm not dissuaded from finishing the show or anything right now, so I'm still interested. Unlike how I was with Ms. Marvel, after the first 2 episodes I really didn't want to go back to it at all. But at least with She-Hulk, maybe it's just the character. I do plan on finishing it as of right now. Like I said, some of those things with the character already being 10 times better, I'm really kind of waiting to see what type of things she's gonna have to get over in the show. And I know it's gonna be a little bit more down to earth, so it's just gonna be those trivial things, or it's gonna be something very personal. So that'll be interesting to see how they do. The comedy aspect, I still don't see. We'll see. Maybe I just don't think this brand of comedy is funny, or maybe there's weren't a lot of jokes in the first episodes. But we'll see. I think the lighter tone will work for this show. Again, just a matter of how they execute it. I am worried about some of the characters we've already seen, like Daredevil and like Abomination, how they're actually gonna fit in this lighter tone. Because, like I said, I'm okay with the lighter tone for She-Hulk herself. It's the characters surrounding her. I'm wondering to see how that part is gonna work. Again, the modern feminism part, yeah, it's pretty heavy-handed. Hopefully they change the writing a little bit as it goes forward in these other episodes. Okay, if the whole premise of that aspect of it is going to be, hey, basically all men you see are going to be trash in some form or aspect, I don't think that's the way to write any story, because you're going to be isolating literally an entire gender of your audience. So if it continues that, if it basically doubles down on all the bad things or the things at least that I didn't like on it throughout the rest of the show, I don't think I'll be fond of the show. But if it accentuates the good parts of it and adds in some decent comedy, it has some, what's comedy is very subjective, and MCU has a bad track record of having bad comedy or just cringe comedy. So hopefully it doesn't just continue that trend. It probably will. Let's be honest, it probably will. But I guess one shining beacon is that the end credit scene, it was a little funny to me. So maybe there's hope. Maybe if there's a little bit more kind of like that, if they edit it well, it could be comedic and not really trying to force jokes. There's a chance. I don't have high hopes in that regards of it, but we'll see. All in all, was it a 10 out of 10? Definitely not. There's definitely some major flaws there. Was it a 1 out of 10? No, it wasn't a 1 out of 10 either. Again, it does fall somewhere in the middle. It's enough for me to keep watching. At least I want to see where it goes and do a video on it after it all ends. Hopefully by the end it turns completely around and I come back and say, hey, this was actually a great show and I was wrong about some things. And not saying that, hey, this actually divulged into something that was really bad, because it has the potential to do both. It has the makings of both. This first episode was a mixed bag. It had some corny stuff in there, of course. I had some cringe in there, of course, and I have literally zero expectations that Mark Ruffalo's Hulk is gonna be, a shining beacon, or is gonna be the character that we know and love. But I mean, it's a She-Hulk show anyway, so I really don't expect them to really do anything great with that character. But for as the main star, the actress, She-Hulk, there's definitely some potential there. So I'm hopeful that this show will turn out to be great. But we'll see. But if you agree with me, definitely like and comment below. If you disagree, maybe still give a like if you feel so obliged, and comment below. But I'd definitely like to know you guys' thoughts about it. Again, make sure you comment and subscribe. Share it with someone that you know who's also watching the show, or who maybe needs a little review before watching the show. But that's my first reaction / review / first impressions of the episode 1 of She-Hulk. But what are you listening to me for anyway? I'm a casual. Cue the outro.